Everybody No, I'm going to do the philosophy stream tonight, Jenna, because hang on, I'll just come and talk to you guys. Where's my stuff? Hello. Hang on, why am I sitting? I always sit so off center. I'm going to do the philosophy stream tonight instead of today because, oh my God, my shit, I didn't even check this. Okay. I woke up. I actually do wake up very early. Thank you very much, Jess. And I had every intention of streaming. My plan was 2 p.m., right? My plan was 2 p.m. But I get very anxious about streaming during the day because I feel there's like lots of competition and like I just won't get the audience. And then when I was getting ready to stream, like there were lots of people streaming and I just kind of thought like, okay, well, because I put, especially with the philosophy stream, I put in so much work ahead of time to prep, right? Like I have to read the text and do the interpretation and do the application to the scenario. So like it's a lot of pre-work. And if I'm doing all that work and I like if we're just chatting about Iran and we're monitoring the situation and there are like 20 people here, who cares? You know, we're just having a chill time and we're just keeping up to date with things and it's easy content. Well, I still do a lot of prep for my monitor the situation streams, right? But I can do less prep for them. Like right now I haven't done that much prep, but I have a sense of what I want to talk to you about. I have a sense of stuff that I want to watch. So it's an easier thing to just do off the cuff. And if I do it for 20 people, I don't care. But when I do a philosophy stream where I have to put in a lot of work before I get online, I don't want to do it unless I'm confident that I'm going to have the audience for it because I'll feel defeated while I'm doing it, if that makes sense. Because I have to do so much work. So I'll do the philosophy stream tonight. I had planned to do it today. I know, I'm the worst. But as I said, I got up and then, and I have done this multiple times before, wanted to stream during the day. Then I look at who's online and I'm like, well, you're just not going to get an audience. So I just will do that tonight when I feel we have a bit more audience because I would like you to, it's just Baudrillard, right? Like it's someone who's very famously had takes on war, but I think it would be good for you guys to have a sense of what he says because he's also very commonly misinterpreted. And I think there's some very interesting things that he has to say about this conflict. Yeah, Jess, I know there'll be like lulls or clashes. Like that's why I originally wanted to do a daytime stream because I was like, oh, I really would like to attract a different audience, but it's just like if I look at like every single person, hi Grid, how you going? If I look at every single person that I share an audience with, I feel like I clicked to go live today and I was like, oh, everyone I know, literally everyone I know is online. And I was like, okay, this isn't my time. Like it's to do, I understand that like it's about cultivating an audience. It's just the point is other people are also cultivating audiences. Does that make sense? I don't mind streaming at midnight my time. Okay, I'm used to it now. I was like, damn, I want to see if I can find other people. But also I'm learning to code. So don't think I'm sleeping when I'm not here. I'm coding. Okay? Takes time to learn. Alrighty. Let's do some situation monitoring now. So we can do some philosophy tonight. A couple of things I want to do. Claude, yeah. I'm trying to integrate like Figma and a few other things, but it's difficult. But when I show you guys, I'll be an expert. And then I'm going to learn all the politics of AI and I'm going to be the expert in AI in this space. And they're going to fight people. Yeah, so there's some things I want to talk about. Then there's some stuff I want to watch, and there's some stuff I want to read. I think this will be like a short stream, like maybe 2 hours. That's what we're aiming for. So we'll just vibe. Everyone just chill. We're just chilling. I feel like my mood is kind of a little low today, to be honest. So this is the stream to get my low mood out, so that by the time I come back tonight, I'm up. And I didn't drink this monster the other day, so this is going back in the fridge to get drunk tonight. Also, remember how I went to how I went to the gym after the last stream? That is not happening again, because it turns out the most serious people in the world go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning. And I know that everyone's like, oh, no one is watching you. Yes, they are. I can feel their eyes. I'm a performer. I know when people are looking at me. Kevin, it's called Monitor the Situation. Monitor. Here you go. Yeah, I was surprised by how packed the gym was at 4:30 in the morning. It was very intimidating. I actually have a piece for us to read about these. Do you want to start with that? It's from the Baffler, Situational Unawareness. Let's start with that. Sorry, Bright, I know. I keep forgetting to work on that. They're the cows in the background. Hi, Tarisk. Okay, so this is about our... I can't get links, Jazz, so unless you can put it in the... I have reader mode? No, that's not right. No, I don't have one currently. I'll get one after stream. I'll have one by tonight. Okay, so situational unawareness. Just anywhere. Just put it anywhere in the Discord. Oh, I didn't turn my blue lights on. Oh, I don't care. Okay. At 1:15 EST on February 28, the United States and Israel launched airstrikes on Iran. During the first 24 hours of war, the airspace over Tehran cleared as roughly 200 fighter jets carried out airstrikes on more than 1,000 targets, twice the scale of the US military's shock and awe campaign in Iraq back in 2003. 9 countries closed their airspaces, and ships changed course to empty out the Strait of Hormuz. Electro-optical and synthetic aperture radar satellites critical to military intelligence zigzagged across the sky, over the strike zone, and signal interference scrambled GPS systems across the region. I watched this all play out in Worldview, which is a geospatial command center that fuses open-source intelligence feeds onto a 3D globe, according to Bilawal Sidhu, an ex-Google Maps product manager who had vibe-coded it over the course of a weekend only a few days before the war broke out. Sidhu had built Worldview using only a swarm of AI agents and publicly available data feeds, live satellite tracking, military aircraft, real-time CCTV feeds, seismic data, street traffic, and more. The result was basically what happens when Google Earth and Palantir have a baby, Sidhu wrote, a tool that lets you look at any place on Earth through the eyes of an intelligence analyst, simply by opening a browser tab. The intelligence monopoly is over, he declared, of his God's eye view. Hang on, let me just see if it would be more comfortable for everyone if I downloaded that now. Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Jess. The intelligence monopoly is over, he declared, of his God's eye view of Operation Epic Fury, suggesting a Promethean transfer of divine power into mortal hands. What does this mean, Royal Slyness? In the lead up to the war with Iran and in the harrowing days since, a dizzying number of tools like Worldview have appeared seemingly out of thin air, bringing the once niche hobbyist community of OSINT, short for Open Source Intelligence, into the mainstream. With names like World Monitor or Big Brother version 3, these dashboards make your own room feel like the CIA, according to one observer. Though it sounds like the tradecraft of spies, at a basic level they simply visualize publicly available data, from conflict zone maps to air traffic to global market fluctuations. In theory, this information, when collected and aggregated in creative ways, can help the user make some surprising inferences. Oh, okay. I always get very sensitive that when I read that people are bored. So that's what I assume all emotes mean. That may be true for actual intelligence analysts, but for most users, these snazzy dashboards cram a chaotic amount of information on screen from which no sane person can draw logical conclusions. Instead of offering actionable intelligence, the illegible cacophony just leads to a type of hypercharged doom scrolling. I feel like night one, when we were monitoring the situation, that is exactly what we were doing. It was like the highest form of doom scrolling. It was just like OSINT feeds with a map. But the thing that this article fails to understand is that's what I wanted to be doing on night one of the war. I understand I was doom scrolling, but what else would I be doing? There's a war. What else would I be doing? Oh God, you guys, tonight, the philosophy stream, you're gonna fucking love it. I put in a lot of work. I need to get some visual aids though. I should have made a PowerPoint. It feels like I'm very excited actually because it felt like I was prepping for class. But we'll see. But I'll sort of touch on this as well. I just love it. No props. I know, Alicia. I know. I'll have to get a prop. I'll get a prop. I'll get some props. I'll do it in the break. Okay, between the two streams. The amount of vibe-coded situation monitor slot being produced these days is absolutely astronomical, one OSINT researcher complained. Another ex-user tried to impose some quality control by ranking several of the new dashboards in a post called Monitoring the Situation Monitors. I had a look at that. It's very funny. For others, it's a fantasy come to life. Every person at the center of their own personal panopticon, the world stretched out before them as they omnisciently swivel their desk chair from cell to screen to screen. But that'll be at 11:30. I'm only going to stream now for like 2 hours. Oh my God, I looked down at 22222 angel numbers. I was going to do that now. I was going to do the philosophy stream now, but I did so much prep for it. I wanted to make sure that I had an audience. So I'm going to do it at night. Okay, imagine if you could make these dashboards, but instead of it being about international relations, it was like, okay, this is crazy. Do I even say it? Yeah, I'm going to. In places like New York, all of the street cameras are publicly accessible. So low key, if you were dating someone, you could set up a dashboard that had like street cameras near where they live and their payout transactions, which are public. Hey, username. I'm sorry, like no one would do that because that would be insane. No one would do that. No one would do that. No one would do that. No one has a fake LinkedIn. No one has fake profiles. I don't like that LinkedIn tells people when you click on their thing. So you have to have a fake LinkedIn. You have to. I wonder how many LinkedIn profiles are just ghost profiles that people have set up to just mine. There's just one person on LinkedIn that's not real. Anyway, I don't know why I even brought that up. None of that matters. Just forget I said any of that. I'm just saying this technology could be used for no. This technology could be used for bad. Bye, Iranian Fatah missile. Have a good day. I scared another man away. Choke on my own spit. Anyway, for others, it's a fantasy come to life. Every person at the center of their own personal panopticon, the world stretched out before them as they omnisciently swivel their desk chair from cell to cell, screen to screen. Not so long ago, I had to intentionally seek out these situation monitors and their infrequent breakthroughs in new investigative tools using OSINT methods. Now they're everywhere, and I'm not the only one to take notice. In late January, during a panel discussion at the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies Air Power Forum, US Air Force Major Claire Randolph reflected on lessons learned from Operation Midnight Hammer, the June 2025 attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. She noted how civilian AI capabilities and challenges they posed to OPSEC, military speak for Operation Security, had snuck up on them. You've got Twitter feeds of randos that are just studying where our airplanes go and publishing it, consolidating it. Yeah, how do you think it feels to be Taylor Swift? If US analysts did some of that, we would consider it secret or maybe even top secret. But that stuff is just allowed on the open internet. Thrilled to be a thorn in the side of the Air Force Major, many of the Twitter randos I follow in the OSINT community saw this as more of a feather in their cap than a dig. Some even added the epithet to their bio. The thing is, this will come back tonight when we do the philosophy stream, because keep in mind, she's saying this, but remember when the Venezuela operation happened and they showed us photos from the Situation Room, and in the Situation Room, they were looking at OSINT Twitter? Like, the Situation Room was using open source intelligence. So just keep that in mind. It is tempting to think that anyone with an internet connection can pull a fast one on the world's most powerful military, or that you can bypass a presidential administration hostile to the very notion of informed public simply by monitoring something as simple as airplane traffic. Even more seductive is the idea that everything is knowable. The digital age has blanketed the world in cameras and sensors, which generate dizzying quantities of data. In other words, noise. But in that vast noise, the OSINT thinking goes, are signals. But in that vast noise, the OSINT thinking goes, are signals. You just have to know how to find and interpret those signals, and all will be revealed. The OSINT revolution in many ways democratized the powerful capabilities to gather information traditionally associated with spy agencies and put them into the hand of intrepid citizens who have identified perpetrators of human rights abuses or exposed vast disinformation networks. The problem I have with this is hang on. There's something correct about that in that if you know how to interpret the signals, you can interpret the signals, right? Amazing. My problem with that is facts without context are very easily turned into conspiracy, right? If you have a bunch of data points and you're trying to find links for them, but you don't have the official link, you don't have the real link, you're making up the link. And that is essentially what conspiracy theories are. You are making up how these two things relate to one another, the conspiracy between them. You are providing a theory for that. And so your brain can be like, hang on, all the air transponders for American things turned off, and all of the people from Tel Aviv are being moved to Dubai, and this is happening here. If all of this is happening at the same time, it must be insert conspiracy theory. And so even though, yes, to an extent, a well-informed citizen can work things out using this open source intelligence. It is possible that they can get to the right conclusion. It's also very possible they can get to the wrong conclusion, right? Like, for every person who correctly guesses the relationship between a series of completely separate facts, there are 10 people who come up with the wrong idea. Providing a concise history of OSINT is difficult. Everything from Facebook stalking a crush. See? You all did it again. You made me feel weird. It's in the... Oh, you can't see it. It's in the article, guys. Facebook stalking a crush. I'm not the only one who made the link. I was simply saying this dangerous AI upgrade to create dashboards for stalking behaviors. It's a fine line between stalking the United States military and stalking some random person you locked eyes with one time. And you're all like, oh, she's a freak. Someone left. Someone left because I freaked him out so bad. But it turns out I wasn't the only one thinking this way. God. To geolocating a video of human rights abuses posted on Telegram would plausibly fall under the OSINT umbrella. Cool. So I know what I'm referring to some of my behavior as from now on. Bellingcat, a pioneer in the field of OSINT and the gold standard for its use in investigative journalism. So that would be an example of well done dot connection. Agree, it can be both information and it can be disinformation if you read stuff into your biases. Yeah, exactly. So like I would say for the most part, Bellingcat is pretty good at making connections well-ish, right? But there are a lot of people, like, I don't know if you've seen at the moment, but all of my Twitter feed is the latest video of Netanyahu saying he has an extra finger, so he's obviously dead because it's obviously AI. And it's like, okay. Or what about this possibility? Just take this as a possibility. What if they are using AI, Netanyahu isn't dead, but they're using AI to make sure that it's not possible to geolocate the video. Maybe he's speaking and it's his body, but they're trying to change up the entire background. Like, yes, maybe AI has been used, but maybe not to generate him completely. Did we consider this? Or did we consider someone who wanted to spread disinformation created the AI image where he has 6 fingers? Like, all of that is possible. But you're just like, look, everyone wants to be the one who, myself included, you guys know for a fact, there is nothing I love more than saying, I told you so. The payoff when you guess something ahead of time, so sweet. So sweet. But like everyone wants to be that person. They want to be the person who discovered and saw what no one else saw. And so, you know, that's the problem with open source intelligence is people are looking and they're like, oh, look at this. Look at why did these flights go to Bahrain a day before this thing started? No wonder Bahrain's getting hit so hard. There's something there. They put a nuclear weapon there. It's like, okay, whoa. How do we get all the way there? I see what you started with. I just missed some of the middle. Okay. AI, I think, is used to provide a new smoke and mirrors illusion to the world. Why hide something if you can make it impossible? Yeah, exactly. Starts its brief history of open source intelligence in July 1941, when William Donovan convinced his old classmate, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, to appoint him Coordinator of Information. My new role? I'm taking that one as well as Ayatollah. I'm the Coordinator of Information now. Months later, after Pearl Harbor, his post formally became a part of the Office of Strategic Services, the forerunner to the CIA, where he was appointed director and meticulously collected dozens of newspapers, journals, press clippings, radio broadcast reports from around the world, hunting for photos and articles that may give away crucial intelligence about the enemy. In essence, Donovan was doing analog OSINT. What a legend! Hear me out. He actually has 6 fingers, but usually wears a prosthetic in public to hide it. Or he has 6 fingers and none of us ever noticed before. As the sheer volume and type of data exploded, the field of OSINT exploded along with it. Much of this growth was led by civil society. Academics, journalists, and human rights researchers developed sophisticated methods to collect and analyze the unprecedented amount of data pumped out into the world every day. These groups also negotiated rigorous ethical and professional standards to guide their work, codified in the Berkeley Protocol on Digital Open Source Investigations, which laid out how to responsibly identify, collect, preserve, and verify digital evidence in human rights and other international criminal investigations. Organizations like Bellingcat, Situ Research, and Forensic Architecture, as well as newsroom teams like BBC Verify, publish visual investigate. My dog is rolling around on his back and doing that like sound they do. It's very distracting. But this is a directional mic, so you can't hear it. So it's just me, and I sound insane. Fact-checking false claims and achieving justice and accountability for victims in the process. Companies started selling OSINT services to corporate clients. OSINT training, certifications. I mean, even Palantir really started as this, right? Because Palantir came from the sort of OSINT software they developed to track people who were hacking and stealing money on the PayPal framework. So it was just a way to track transactions. And that's how all of that Palantir intelligence began. OSINT training, certification, and conferences popped up like the one that will take place later this month and promises to help participants master OSINT in an era of information overload at the OSINT Summit. I think as well, it's very strange to not assume that at some point, official militaries are going to start scrambling their data and producing false data somehow, right? Because as was said by the Air Force lady, this can be a real problem in terms of security. So surely it makes sense that at some point they're just going to start, because as I say, it's one thing to try and remove information and keep information secret, but that doesn't necessarily tend to work in the modern world. You really have to flood information. Like instead of a George Orwell kind of situation, it has to be an Aldous Huxley kind of situation where it's like, instead of trying to hide this information that I want hidden, I'm going to release 6 pieces of disinformation. Thank you. Thank you. Wait, I didn't hear the super chat. So cute. Oh, there was no... You didn't write anything. You super chatted. You didn't write anything. Thank you, though. Yeah, so to me, it doesn't seem out of this realm that official militaries will start putting false information out as well. Everyday people who may... Stop. What the hell? What are you doing up? Do stuff and things? The thing is, you're gonna struggle a little, Kevin, researching Palantir because they don't want you to research it, right? So I don't like. Why is my dog doing this? Stop it. So in terms of like Foundry and stuff and their kind of secondary apps, I'm not sure how you get access to it in order to do that sort of investigation. This article is so long, guys. But I'm going to finish it. I have to learn to be a finisher. We'll just do a speed. We'll do it. Hang on. I can do it. I can at least do half the article more. Everyday people who may have never heard of the term OSINT have devised ingenious ways to help their communities. When Hurricane Beryl knocked out power for 2.2 million of his neighbours in 2024, one enterprising Texan opened his app for the beloved fast food chain Whataburger, which has a live map tracking the status of restaurant closures in his area, a near-perfect proxy for the geographic distribution of power outages. Indeed, good OSINT abounds. This is how real OSINT should be done, declared the OSINT newsletter, which described how Bellingcat reconstructed the Minneapolis ICE shooting by syncing 5 different videos, mapping movements, and analyzing multiple camera angles, adding no doxing, no speculation, just sources and methods. The thing that I find, I know this is a bit of a zag, but the problem I have with the Bellingcat investigation of the ICE shootings is that and this will come up tonight as well in the Baudrillard stream, but like we are at a point where visual evidence, like you can prove it. You can prove it from 5 different angles. The administration is still just going to lie to your face because it's like a fascistic test, right? It's like someone lying to your face and saying, like, if I was like, Kevin, just tell me your favorite color is pink. And let's say we all knew, let's do a less subjective example. Kevin, tell me that dogs and cats are the same animal. Now, we all know dogs and cats aren't the same animal, but what I'm doing is I am testing your loyalty to my framework of truth, right? So when I lie to your face and I ask you to lie back to me, right? No, you can and you will, or I'll kill you. That's what America is doing, right? That's what when America has this shooting that is documented from 5 different angles, okay, when there are people who were there who saw it, eyewitnesses, when we all have more evidence than you could ever need to know exactly what happened, and the administration still says something to the contrary, when they say, you don't understand, he was a terrorist attacking ICE agents. Do you understand that? They were defending themselves. He was a terrorist attacking ICE agents. Say it back to me. Ignore your eyes, ignore your brain, say it back to me. They are... Thank you, Bed-Stuy Bed Guy. You guys are embarrassing me. You're making me feel embarrassed. But, what was I going to say? Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. So it's like, yeah, okay, it's useful for Bellingcat to do that. It's useful for Bellingcat to provide this, like, look, we've done it for 5 angles to show you that visually this is the absolute truth. I know, NJ, Daystream. But it's kind of meaningless under an administration that crafts its own truth and then demands that you subscribe to it. Makes it a totalizing truth which you have no choice but to accept. So it doesn't like, okay, you came up with evidence to disprove what they're saying. They don't care. They don't care. In the wild west of the internet, however, OSINT enthusiasts play by a different set of rules. For every Bellingcat exposing US culpability in a missile strike on the Iranian girls' school, there are a score of more accounts dubiously claiming to do similar work, often with exponentially larger platforms, collectively referred to as bro-int. Hell yeah. This is how I feel about that war monitor guy. I don't like him. He's bro-int to me. 你好吗？你有非常漂亮的头发。是 I'm ready. If China wants me to come, I'll do it. I also really like this song. Hang on, I put it on my playlist for December. I'm going to play it, and then this part of the stream is going to get copyright struck. But I don't care, because everyone needs to hear it. Because I don't think you guys are rocking to Chinese music enough. Note that I know none of the lyrics because they're in Chinese, so I'll have to learn it before my trip. My sponsored trip to China. Ready? Oh, ad. Okay, here we go. Ready? Wait, why is my desk... Ready? Ready? Chinese. I will learn this song as several. It's my favorite bit. It's my favorite bit. But anyway, that is called Stacks from All... Well, it's called something in Chinese, but in English it's called Stacks from All Sides by Sky is Your God. 10 out of 10. Recommend everyone listen to that all of the time. I love vibing out to a song in a language I cannot speak. That's why I fuck with Rosalia so hard. I have not a clue what that bitch is saying. But sometimes I sing along. I even include a lisp because I like to be true to form. Do you guys, you know what I miss? When we used to put the 90s Mongolian trip hop on in the beginning, but I kept getting copyright struck. It was annoying. And you know they take all my money. That's fine. Okay. bro-int. These fuckers. These OSINT cowboys share common traits according to the Coalition of Cyber Investigators. Thank you, Bitsmonkey. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for... Look at you. Yeah. I haven't fully worked out the YouTube side of these alerts, but thank you. I hope that was for my Chinese. That's going to happen now 3 more times because I haven't worked out how to do it. Look at you. See? And yet I tell you that in my spare time I'm trying to code and I can't work out how to get these quite right. I'll work it out and then you'll all be sorry. I'm also, guys, is this too ambitious? The answer is no, by the way. I'm pre-giving you the answer. So there's one way to answer this question. Look at you. I'm building a cyber deck. I'm going to build a cyber deck in a purse. Because not only do I want to learn how to code and become a master of AI, I'm also going to learn how to build computer. And then I have every aspect of computer fixed. I don't know how to fix that transition screen. I don't know. And now it's kind of become like a cute little... it's a foible of the stream. Yeah, like a cyber deck. Like, I'm going to build it, Elysium, in a purse. So I could do the cyber deck like Yu-Gi-Oh if I wanted to, but I'm going to do mine in a purse. And it's going to be just a little computer where I can put like some books and movies, because if the world ends and I don't have access to Glazer's 2001 Birth, how could I survive? I simply must have a cyber deck. I must. Its use, I don't fully know, but I will build computer and I will build AI, and then I will learn to criticize AI, and I'll have the whole gambit. And also maybe I'll do some OSINT on my cyber deck, so I can OSINT on the go. We'll call it GoSint. We'll call it JoSint. JoSint is better than BroSint. They're impatient, overconfident, and often self-taught through YouTube tutorials. Damn. Immediately called out. They treat investigations like a game, forgetting that real people in serious Okay. Oh my God, guys, please come back tonight for the philosophy stream and remember this sentence. They treat investigations like a game, forgetting that real people and serious consequences are involved. Whilst their output can look impressive to the untrained eye, experienced professionals recognize their reckless approach doesn't just hurt their work, it damages the credibility of OSINT as a discipline. Well, we wouldn't. I wouldn't want that. To be sure. We're not using that enough, to be sure, by the way. To be sure, some OSINT cowboys are well-meaning and even helpful. One Pentagon reporter I spoke to said that even if specific claims made or conclusions drawn are wrong, these accounts can help call attention to a general pattern that journalists should dig into. An account may be incorrect about, say, the exact number model of aircraft. Well, we have been learning defense materials, so not on this stream. I recognize a B1 and a B2 now. I know the difference between a battery and a missile. I know the different kind of mines in the water. These accounts can help call attention to a general pattern that journalists should dig into. An account may be incorrect about, say, the exact number of model of aircraft, tankers, and transport ships that are en route to the Middle East, or that the movement of 57 C-17 planes means a US attack is 6 hours out. But from a high level, any mass movement of military assets is definitely something a defense reporter should follow. Not every OSINT cowboy is measured in their predictions or clear-eyed about the limits of their methods. Name 3 planes: B1, B2, and F-16. Did I do it, chat? And an Airbus 380. I'm learning. Oh, no, the 3 from that video. Oh, shit. J... You're talking about the J star? Then the one that has the satellite, the cute little hat on it. The J star is the operation one. Then there's the Air Force one. That's like the Air Force One. That J star is the one in the middle that has all the information on it. Then there's the one with the cute little hat that's a satellite. And then there's Air Force One. Or the kind of plane that Air Force One falls into. AWACS, AWACS, AWACS. AWACS wear hats. AWACS wear hats. AWACS wear hats. J-Star, AWACS, Air Force One. Done. AWACS wear hats. That's how we're going to remember it. Wait. Hello, everybody. She told you? She told you what happened? I already forgave her. I already forgave her. I just wasn't done crashing out, guys. And so I just decided to do it privately. Thank you all cult members for arriving and coming. And I see you're doing the bidding of your master, but I already forgave her. But I'll re-forgive her because of the forgiveness rate. I was like, my life is ending. She was like, I can't stream. I already forgave her. Guys, and I forgave her of my own free will. I'm just still crashing out a bit. I have one tattoo on my entire body, and my tattoo says, all is forgiven. And it faces outward so that I forgive other people at all times. All is forgiven. I'm a forgiver. Thy blessings we receive. Guys, when look, sometimes, you know what? Actually, here's what I've learned in my life. The best thing to do when you're crashing out? Just don't. I'm not even going to tell you about my crash out because it doesn't matter. Because the best thing we can do with a crash out is forget about it and get into open source intelligence. Just channel all that energy into building a cyber deck. Do you understand even?
Look at you.
Yay! Thank you, Time of Gifts. That's so lovely. We're just doing a bit of a read about OSINT. Why worry about the issues in my life when I can predict incorrectly the detonation of a nuclear weapon? Because the thing is, you can't worry about your own life when you think a nuke is about to go off. That kind of takes up all of the space. I used to do this, Babster, like scheduling a day to crash out seems like a great idea. I used to do this by watching Grey's Anatomy. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to... There's no nuke. There's no nuke. I made that up. That's the problem with OSINT, is that you start looking at stuff and you're like, all is well in the world. Look, all is not well in the world. I'm gonna do some philosophy tonight, okay? Not today, because I didn't figure I would have an audience today, but now you're all here, but I'm not ready to do it now. I'm not ready now. I'll be ready at 11:30. But we are looking at, well, I tried to open this to get, here we go. This, guys, this is an AWACS. And you know that because we're learning defense materials so that we can be OSINT masters. You know it's an AWACS because it wears a little hat. AWACS wears hats. Okay, I gotta finish this. But then I'll go over some actual monitoring of the situation from today. Then there's an interview I want to watch with some Iranian experts. Okay. So tonight I'm going to go over Baudrillard and I'm going to go over pretty much all of his observations on war. He really talks about 3 wars throughout his work. He talks about the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and the Iraq-Afghanistan War. But obviously I'll focus on the piece, the Gulf War did not take place. Well, that's a selection of 3 essays with different names. The Gulf War did not take place being the middle one, or the last one. So I'm going to go through what he has to say about war in application to this current war. I think a lot of the time when people bring up Baudrillard in relation, like so Baudrillard generally is the simulacra guy, the hyper-reality guy. So a lot of people are like, yeah, the media and TV and war, it's hyper-real, it's a simulation. And that's kind of the least interesting part of Baudrillard's analysis of war to me. So we'll go over that tonight. But really, it's really Baudrillard. And then if you want to do actual like war kind of philosophy, you'd have to go all the way back to Thucydides. But you'd have to go the legal route, like just war principles. But I don't think that's interesting for the current war. Because Baudrillard, I can say Baudrillard if I want. I love anyone who, you're clearly new here. My favorite thing to do is say philosophers' names incorrectly. For years, Luce Irigare, in this household, she was called Luce Irigare. And I literally, every time I say the name, have to be like, Luce Irigare. I put white paper. The thing is, I know this bookshelf so well that it doesn't really matter that they're covered. I just put white paper on them. It was for an aesthetic, but it's also because you're all perverts who read all my shit. How do I... Dubois. I'm an Australian, so W.E.B. Dubois. Just war principles are interesting, but they don't apply here, right? Because just war principles include jus in bello, jus ad bellum, like when is it right to go to war, how is it right to act in war. But this war began with tomahawking an elementary girls' school. So I don't really, what's the point in us talking about jus in bellum? And it started with an illegal preemptive strike because now there is a forever imminent threat to America, apparently, because another country having a military now counts as something that is forever imminent. And so if that is the case, jus ad bellum doesn't count anymore. So if we don't really have any sense of jus ad bellum, like the just war principle in terms of how you go to war, when is it right, when is it just to go to war, and we don't have jus in bello, how is it right, how is it just to act in war? If we have essentially abandoned those principles, what is the point of talking about just war theory? You know what I mean? Like, that would be the point. Not real. Like, I mean, Oliver, how many times can we say the war isn't just? The problem is we have entered a paradigm where international law, a liberal international system with a sense of like values and what is right and wrong, if that ever did exist in a meaningful way, no longer exists whatsoever. So sure, and I understand that you're saying we have to know when they would apply to understand when they don't. The thing is, the people who are meant to be in charge of the application, the people who are meant to be taking this into account, they do know and they don't care. So it's kind of like, I can teach you, right? But it's like, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, really, maybe even further back, but I'm going to start there. There's really been a sense of people being like, oh, but Article 5, Article 1, Article, and no one cares. No one cares. So these liberal ideas and values, without an enforcement mechanism, once people decide that they aren't going to adhere, like things like the Constitution, like international law, they are toothless tigers in that they are only as powerful as the power they are given. So when everyone decides to stop caring about it and stop adhering to it, invoking it no longer matters, because it's not like they don't know. They know. They just don't give a fuck. They're not even, you're hearing people say, oh, they don't even bother to manufacture consent anymore. Why? Why bother? Having the consent of the people is not something that matters to them anymore. So why waste their time? Yeah, famous. And that's often why dictators have two militaries. In a lot of these countries, Russia, Iran, like you will see that there is the military of the country, and then there's a second military to protect the dictator from an uprising in case the military of the country turn against the dictator. There's always a second private group. So there's the Wagner group, there's the IRGC. There's always a second force to protect the dictator. ICE, exactly. I mean, we're in the early stages, but they could because apparently I've heard in their contracts that they can be operationalized in any way. The Mounties in Canada. Yeah, just like the Mounties in Canada. Okay, wait. Forget this OSINT article. For those of you who were here and you enjoyed it, let me link it for you so you can finish it on your own time. But people haven't been here for the first half, so it feels like we should. Oh, I think I just clicked over to a new page. Yeah, sorry guys, we just have to wait for this to do its thing. If I close this and open it, sometimes it skips ahead. Oh, but I have two overlays now. That's right. Okay, hopefully that's fixed it. Okay, so some things to chat about. Exactly, Jurga. Can Bibi make has Mossad? Well, Mossad isn't the same, right? Because like, okay, America has the CIA, Australia has ASIO, ASIS, right? Like an intelligence org isn't the same as a private army. That's what I'm talking about. In a lot of these late stage kind of autocratic regimes, there is an army that is a duplicate of the army. So this happened in Sudan as well, which is what the current civil war is. For those of you who don't know what's going on in Sudan, basically there were two forces in Sudan. There was the Rapid Military Support Forces and there was the Sudanese Armed Forces. So the Sudanese Armed Forces were the official army of Sudan, and then the Rapid Military Support separate force. So when it came time to overthrow the dictator in Sudan, the idea was, oh, well, I'll use one of my forces to fight against the other. But the two of them teamed up to overthrow the dictator in Sudan. But then the problem was during the transition government, it was kind of murky about who would be in charge, right? And then recently, the recent outbreak happened because the head of hang on, let me try and remember names. So the head of Rapid Support Forces name is Hameti, and the head of Sudanese Armed Forces is named Al Burhan. And Al Burhan is like sort of like a de facto leader until they held elections. But in writing the new constitution, it was written in that the Rapid Support Forces would be subsumed into the Sudanese Armed Forces. And that essentially fucked Hameti big time. It would have taken away all of his power. It would have taken away all of his illegal money that he was making by like funding gold mines and stuff. It would have fucked him over. And so that's why they went to war, because basically they're fighting for control of Sudan, but it's these two military forces fighting against one another because the two military forces were built to protect from a military coup, but instead they grouped together and did a military coup together, and now the two militaries are fighting. Right, so you see it in Sudan. You saw it in Russia when Prigozhin took the Wagner group right up to Moscow, and we all thought that Prigozhin was going to have a go at Putin, and he randomly gave up. Saddam Hussein did have similar tactics. And you see it in the IRGC, which is why I keep telling you that there is a chance that Artesh could flip. definitely, which is the official army in Iran. That is the Iranian armed forces, Atesh, right? And there's a chance the police force could flip. But in terms of the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the Basij, the voluntary force associated with the IRGC, they're not flipping because they ideologically approve of the project, right? Gave up in a way that Captain Famous, I still don't understand what happened there. It is, to this day, it's one of the most baffling things I can think of. Was the IRGC originally lifted by the CIA, funded by them? No. No. Definitely not. The CIA was supporting the Shah. Okay. Let me just do some talking about some thoughts. Okay, first of all, very funny. Normally, I would be super hesitant to talk about definitely in Afghanistan, yeah. The brave soldiers of the Mujahideen. Normally I'd be very hesitant to mention anything at all to do with a false flag operation. But goddamn, does it seem like they're gearing up for a false flag operation. Because I don't know if you know this, but California longs for regime change. They long for it. California is calling on Iran to rescue them. But okay. Normally I would be like, this is ridiculous. Like, I normally hate people who are like, oh my God, false flag, false flag, false flag. But when America's like, there have been threats about an attack on California, they're going to strike it with a drone. The cartels have drones and they're going to strike it. They're going to strike the Oscars. And then America's also like, we happen to be robbed. We were robbed of drones. I was like, I don't feel like you should be able to be robbed of drones. Yeah, I mean, there have been certain Oscar wins that have made me want to drone strike the Oscars. I don't see... Look, I hope nothing happens. I always hope nothing happens, and I hope nothing happens. But just the way everything is being spoken about right now is insane. I like the idea that Donald Trump loves Mamdani so much. He's like, you know what? Let's go with the West Coast. Let's kill the pretty people. See how they react. A drone expert? I really want to be one of those people who look up at the sky when a plane is going over and just be able to name it. Kevin, I hope you survive. They're not going to go for you. They want to kill like Brad Pitt or something. The Oscars ratings have been down, and so they actually need an act of war in order to get people to tune in. As I have said many times, California longs for regime change. Tom Hanks would be great. God, wouldn't America rally for if America's man went down? Kanye would just be upset he wasn't there, that he wasn't invited. Okay, so yeah, I don't really have anything important to say about the false flag. Just that I almost don't think there's going to be a false flag because it's so on the nose. Okay, bye, Jess Wolf. If they were a little more subtle about it, but it's just so on the nose. Good point, time of gifts. We can't, Trump loves New York too much. He loves Florida too much. But he fucking hates California. On the nose is their style, correct. Okay, so a little bit of monitoring the situation before we watch a video, and then I'll go and I'll be back tonight, okay? The monitoring that I wanted to do. Hang on, let me get all my stuff together. Oh, wait, there was one more thing. There's some funny things I want to watch. One funny thing I want to watch. This is how we ought to be speaking about ourselves. Did you guys see this?
They dominate America's workforce now more than ever before. Across the country today, women are finding unique ways to balance career ambition and family. We all know these incredible women. They dominate America's workforce now more than ever before.
Here it's coming.
As a visionary, I know success is not born overnight, but rather takes shape after a long and sometimes challenging process.
Guys, as a visionary, I know that it's very hard to craft intelligent commentary for you all. But I see what you want to hear, and I'm able to deliver it. I have a theory about Melania, which is that every move she makes, literally everything, is a passive-aggressive move against her husband. Like, think about it. Every first lady gets to pick a topic that is their thing, right? And she picks anti-bullying. Okay. When she is married to perhaps the most famous bully in the world, she's like, no one should be bullied. Last year, the theme for her Christmas decorations was "There's no place like home," which is hilarious when she famously does not live in the White House with this man. Like, everything she does is just a shot at this man, but in the most subtle of ways. You've not seen any signs of that, no.
Often alone at the top, I follow my passion, listen to my instincts.
Alone at the top. No husband there. She follows her passion, okay? She's alone at the top. Look at his face here.
And always maintain a laser focus. In solitude, my creative mind dances.
When he leaves me alone, in solitude, my creative mind dances. I'm able to do things when he leaves me alone, guys.
Link my imagination with originality. Attention to detail, demanding schedules, and multitasking are everyday realities when building towards success. The principle resonates across all my roles as a mother, humanitarian, philanthropist, and entrepreneur.
Mother, humanitarian, philanthropist, and entrepreneur. No wife. No first lady. All of my roles, none of which have anything to do with this man. Look, I don't think she's a good person. I'm not like, you guys are so annoying. It's like the second you find someone funny or like you enjoy consume, like this is the same thing. It's like when I talk about clavicular and everyone's like, oh my God, why are we infantilizing him? Why? Because these are people who encapsulate the current moment. I'm not into them. I'm not trying to save her. I'm not like, oh my God, poor woman. I don't give a fuck about this woman. I just think it's funny that she hates her husband so openly. And I love watching her do it. Yeah. No, I know. I'm the same Babster.
As well as with my new film, where I shaped its creative direction, served as a producer, managed post-production, and activated the marketing campaign. Curiosity is a core
Curiosity.
value that keeps me ahead of the curve. Curiosity begets knowledge, opening
Curiosity.
doors to ideas and industry that I have otherwise overlooked. This unrestricted mindset has led me to build across very different sectors: fashion, digital assets, publishing, accessories, skincare, commercial
Accessories.
television, and of course, filmmaking.
Anyway, I just wanted you guys to know that you can all start any sentence you say, any idea you want to go with, you just start it with as a visionary, okay? You think it feels like ChatGPT every time Hegseth speaks, Teflon? I think it feels like a maid of honor speech, but by a man. Like, let me find, hang on. She was young. Well, good morning. 2 days ago, under the direct orders of President Donald J. Trump, the Department of War launched Operation Epic Fury. The most lethal, most complex, and most precise aerial operation in history. For 47 long years, the expansionist and Islamist regime in Tehran has waged a savage, one-sided war against America. They didn't always declare it openly, right? Except for their constant chants of death to America. They did it through the blood of our people. Car bombs in Beirut, rocket attacks on our ships, murders at our embassies, roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan. Funded and armed by the Iranian Quds Force. My generation of veterans carried the names of brothers who never came home. Brothers butchered by Iranian-backed roadside bombs and well-armed militia, thousands of our own. We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on America has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult. It took the 47th president, a fighter who always put America first, to finally draw the line. After 47 years of Iranian belligerence, he reminded the world, as he has time and time again, being an American means something unbreakable. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans, anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology, without hesitation. And we will kill you. President Trump's also been very consistent. Crazy regimes like Iran, hell-bent on prophetic Islamic delusions, cannot have nuclear weapons. It's common sense. Many have said it. But it takes guts to actually enforce it. And our president has guts. Anyway, you get the vibe. To me, that's what it feels like, a maid of honor speech, every time I hear him talk. It's so funny. If you would like more interpretive readings, let me know. Okay, so just quickly, my little update on the war is the US and Israel kind of face two bad options when it comes to Iran. So US intelligence is now pretty sure. Now, obviously, I've heard a lot of reports that Mushtaba is in a coma, he's lost a leg. I think there's like a very interesting question to be asked about how important it is for the Ayatollah to be alive for regime survival. Because as we've said, we like obviously there's a symbolic thing of like you keep killing the Ayatollah, but it's like, okay, well the IRGC are largely in charge. It's a war, right? As long as the idea of the Ayatollah is an idea. As long as the idea of the Ayatollah maintains and military orders keep flowing, how much does it really matter if the Ayatollah is alive or not? You know? Hang on. To be honest, as I've told you multiple times before, Moshtaba is not a good guy. It'd be great for all of us if Moshtaba is gone. But the thing is, I think each time an Ayatollah is kicked, a worse Ayatollah is going to come in. People don't understand how close we are to ending all of civilization. No, I understand, nuking God. Trump has a fucking hard-on for tactical permission structures. I truly, nuking God. I have said multiple times on this stream, and I keep hoping I'm wrong. I am not willing to say that this doesn't end in a nuke going off. I think it'll be a small nuke, but it will. The problem is, right, if they use a small nuke, a tactical nuke, limited nuclear warfare, once you do that, I know it's a username sus. It's clearly the point that he wants to make. But like, it's not even, okay, they use a nuke, it's the end of the world, in the sense that that action will be the end of the world. What it kind of signals, though, is a new age where there is a willingness. Up until this point, people don't use nuclear weapons, right? So up until this point, there's kind of a well-held ideal that we don't use nuclear weapons. Once a nuclear weapon is used in limited warfare, that kind of prohibition. I mean, war crime, there have been so many war crimes, Kevin. Who cares? No one's enforcing any of it. America isn't signed to anything that would get them in trouble. And even if they were, they'd just leave it. They don't care. This is what we'll be talking about tonight. And I think it's like the most important part of Baudrillard. The existence of war kind of is all fake because of the existence of nuclear weapons, right? So long as the world exists in a paradigm where you press a button and everyone blows up, like war is kind of just a fake simulation of something that no longer really exists because one side can just destroy everyone else, right? But yeah, once you open the door on nukes and everyone using nukes, we're in a new world where everyone uses nukes, and that is a world where we all get destroyed. But yeah, that'll be tonight's stream. So let's just calm down. Okay, so yeah. US intelligence is telling the US that the Iranian regime is stable. This is a fact, whether or not Mojtaba is in a coma, whether he's dead, whether he's alive. The regime is not falling, it's stable. And that shouldn't, no, you're fine. You're fine. That shouldn't surprise anyone, because how many times have we been over it, right? The regime is built to survive shocks and survive crises, even ones as big as this, because the regime was organizationally structured during the Iran-Iraq war. So they literally had a conflict that was very large as a backdrop for the design of their regime. Okay, so it is built in this environment for this environment. But if the regime isn't going to collapse, then what the fuck do Washington and Jerusalem do? Or as Washington and Tel Aviv? Okay. So there's a few options. They can wind down the conflict, right? Which is what I have sort of suggested that might happen in terms of... No, I don't think they would. I mean, who would get impeached? Because I don't think they would outright say they used a nuke. So first of all, you have to prove they used a nuke, right? Then once you prove they used a nuke, because also some very smart people, some of my blue names, Elysium, were saying they're unlikely to use an actual nuke, but they are likely to drop a conventional weapon on nuclear supply, creating a nuclear event without ever actually using a nuke. So technically, they didn't use a nuclear weapon. They just dropped a conventional weapon on a nuclear site, creating a nuclear event. They've basically given every citizen of Tehran Gulf War syndrome. They have already committed such huge atrocities. They should be impeached now, right? They have chemically poisoned an entire population of a city of 10 million. So maybe you mean in terms of like, it feels like the nuclear weapon is a red line in the same way that people see genocide as a red line. But if genocide has taught us anything, you have to first get to the point where you can get people to acknowledge that that's what occurred. And they'll go out of their way to do it in a sneaky way where they don't have to acknowledge that, right? But here are their options. Wind down the conflict. I have said that I think Trump will just declare victory, right? Because if you don't put out any objectives, if you don't put out any victory conditions, technically you can just end whenever and say you won. Right? So he could just do that. He could just declare victory. That is a bad option for multiple reasons that we've been over. One, you leave behind a more radicalized regime in Iran who are now determined to rebuild their military capabilities and probably start up their nuclear program without any limits on nuclear weapons. And the country is economically fucked. Now, in terms of infrastructure, they're fucked. There are serious internal tensions, which you would think would be bad, but often this sort of thing can really strengthen a regime in the short term. Because people are fucked, right? So that can weirdly result in a huge inflation of nationalism, fear, and extreme repression by the regime. Because, there's fighting. We have to put down the fighting. So that, bad, okay? And also, the thing is, let's say Trump declares victory. Iran refuses to stop, which would be the case, by the way. They have a say in when the war ends. And Iran continues to attack the Gulf neighbors. And then they have to come back into the war. Then what does that mean about their declaration of victory? Not good. Can you hear my dog snoring? She's right here. You can't see her, but she's right here. So then what is the other option? Well, there's option B, which is to escalate dramatically. Because the way things are currently going isn't working. So I'm sorry. I'll get my dog camera back for tonight's stream. Escalate dramatically, tease everyone. Like, my mic isn't picking up. It's because when I listen back, mic isn't really picking up the dog. Okay. Is it picking up me? I listened back to my stream the other day and I can hear myself swallowing. And I'm not into it at all. So I've been fiddling with the gain. So current back and forth isn't doing anything. So yeah, exactly, like a disgustingly juicy man. Current fighting, even though it's quite heavy and intense, is not doing anything to change the kind of circumstances of the war. So they would need to escalate dramatically to the point that they believe that their escalation would destabilize the regime. The issue with that, obviously, that will trigger a more intense Iranian retaliation without even guaranteeing that the regime would collapse. And then, let's say the regime does collapse, you're still not getting democracy. You're getting chaos. You're getting a civil war in a country of 90 million. You're getting a huger, like, as we have said, think about the global migration crisis with 2 million people from Syria. Take the same percentage, 10% of the society fleeing. In Iran, that's 9 million people going to Europe. That's why you can't really call the campaign a clear victory. Now, tonight we'll talk about how it can be a victory even if it's a complete failure. But that's for tonight. You can't call the campaign a victory even if America and Israel demonstrate they have superior intelligence, they have superior. Tonight will be 11:30 EST, which will be 8:30 a.m. EST. Operational success, tactical success does not equate to strategic success. So, yes, Babster, that's correct. And every day, shit's getting worse strategically, right? Risks are growing. You've got the Strait of Hormuz, fucking everyone and everything, rising oil prices, possible Houthi escalation, problems with food stability because of the strait. The spillover into Lebanon, which really should be viewed as its own campaign, because it almost feels like what's happening in Iran is a cover for what is happening in Lebanon, right? Joga, they are attacking their neighbors though. If, like, I'm sorry, I agree with you, but we have to look at doublespeak on both sides, right? It is doublespeak to say that they are only attacking US bases, because they're not. They're attacking airports, they're attacking oil fields, they're attacking oil infrastructure, they're attacking hotels. So they're not just attacking US military bases. I am the first person who would make that clarification if I felt that was the case. But the thing is, I'm not willing to say one side bad, the other side good in this conflict, right? You need to be very clear about just the facts versus the talk, because there's an information war going at all stages on both sides. So I'm more than willing to tell you, like, okay, I'm willing to tell you this. Attacking the Gulf Cooperating Council countries makes sense. It's probably the smartest tactic that Iran can use. Putting pressure on them, countries that have power, that care, that don't want war, that will pressure America and who have a big say in what America does, is the best strategy for Iran. It makes the most sense. It also makes sense for them because a long-term goal for Iran has been to stabilize their relationship with the Gulf countries, right? They were willing to give that up because to them, this war is existential. This war is more important than any other goal, because if they don't win this war, their whole thing, they don't survive. So it makes sense to them to want to say publicly, for the public line to be, we're only attacking US military bases. Okay, but that's not what they're doing. And you can say, yeah, camels, they're hurting anyone aligned with their enemies. Yeah, that's what they're doing. But that's not what the foreign minister is saying. The foreign minister is saying we're only attacking the bases. But that isn't true. That isn't true. I'll see you later, time of gifts. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a good day at work. Ugh, work. Ugh. So yes, spill over into Lebanon and Iraq and maybe Yemen eventually. But so things are getting worse. And so far, the outcome of the war has been Iran controls the most critical energy choke point in the world, and they've closed it, and Russia can now sell their own oil freely at a premium. Great job, guys. And I think the escalation scenario and the escalation we've seen over the last couple of days should really worry Americans, because when it comes to the Strait, the only way to open the Strait without a ceasefire agreement, which would have requirements in it that America will not want, is, and I say this regrettably, is to put boots on the ground. Brute force it. Hegseth wants that. Rubio doesn't want it. Rubio doesn't want it because Rubio wants boots in the ground for Cuba. If they commit boots to the ground in Iran, they'll never get around to putting boots on the ground in Cuba, right? I think it's 18, Follistan. Colby would be insanely angry. Vance we haven't seen. He's obviously against the war. But I can't see another way that you reopen the Strait without a ceasefire agreement. And this is what, I don't know if you guys have seen Robert Pape. He's like a professor in international relations. He has an idea called the escalation trap, which is what America is basically walking straight into, which is if we send ground forces, right, then you can't put an upper bound on the commitment or the duration. It could be a decade. It will be at least till September. You would require a huge amount of troops. Casualties would be horrendous, right? Because Iran is not like Iraq. Iran is like Vietnam. And you're seeing the same thing that you saw in Vietnam, which is very strange, where you're starting to have, because you have no real measures of success, you have no objectives, you have no victory conditions. Instead, you're getting this body count analysis. Except you're getting it with like defense materials. We hit this many cities. We dropped this many bombs. It's becoming this weird counting. China is sort of something I saw that's really interesting is that India has gone to China for urea, which is like part of what they use in fertilizer, which says bad things about the Quad and its future. But I don't know. I don't know where things go from here. Yeah, I don't know how you get out of it. I don't know. This has like been the stupidest expedition ever. Guys, I was going to watch something, but I think I'm going to go so that I can come back tonight properly. Okay? Love you guys. But I'm going to go. Okay.